Recording in progress.
Into the mic. Hello, everyone. Calling to order the April 13th Board of Library Trustees meeting. Welcome. Do we have anyone online, or do we have any public comment to read? Oh, hey, Karen. I think you're on mute. I see you.
No comments, just a visitor.
First item, or next item on the agenda is the ACE Committee report.
For RCTV. Does this one work as well for both? Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Gregory, and I'm the chair of the ACE Committee, and I'm serving as the Board of Library Trustees designee. So I'm just here because it's been about a year since I've given an update, so I just wanted to let you know where we were at. So we're pleased to report an update on the progress that we've made. We've continued to meet with members of the public and tell them about our work and how that relates to them personally. So we've been making plans for programs in town that we can share with you tonight. And the committee was extended for another year by the select board, so we will conclude in January 2027. During that time, we will roll out programming, gather additional input, public input that ensures a truly community-led effort, and wrap up our work with sustaining activities set up to meet the committee's mission. So for public events in our first year, we met with, we interacted with the public at different events, including Friends and Family Day, the Juneteenth celebration, the Fall Street Fair, Connected Reading here at the library, and the MLK Day event at the high school. This has given us a good opportunity to look, to let the public know about our work and how we've had really good conversations with residents in town. People have shared personal stories about how the issues of addressing Bill Russell's experience in town and turning that into an opportunity to raise awareness about the inspiring leadership qualities Mr. Russell stood for really resonates with them and their ideas for how we can meet our mission in a way that will serve and inspire the public. So far, we've held 2 sessions of our Game Changer series where the first session focused on the Bill Russell's first book, Go Up for Glory. It was pretty successful. We had about 30 people attend. And then we held our second session in March, which was we featured the documentary My Life, My Way, which he produced with his daughter, Karen Russell. That was also similarly attended with about 30, 40 people. And then we have a third session planned for this coming May, and then we're going to take a break for the summer to review what other materials we want to discuss, and then we'll come back in the fall with more sessions. So we've also discussed the potential of an award that would recognize an individual in our community that has made a significant impact and exemplifies the 6 pillars of Mr. Russell's leadership, which would include social justice, activism, education, leadership, community building, and mentorship. We plan to, again, table at Juneteenth this year, and we're also working into some smaller subgroups as we start to flesh out some more of our recommendations and get into more details of how we're going to turn this over to the select board and see where this will go afterwards. We've reviewed several mechanisms to fund each of the suggestions that we're looking at and how those responsibilities will be handled after the committee sunsets. So it's not just dumped on Albert's lap. At least he'll have a roadmap and at least have a way to continue the work even after the committee sunsets. And then we've also had contact with the Russell family, with Albert acting as the main point of contact. He's had some encouraging responses from the family and who have appreciated us reaching out, and they want the opportunity to have some input with the committee for the plans that the town is developing. It's just that the family member is juggling a lot at the time. So I think we're gonna get more, we might be able to have some more time with her soon. Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. It will be based on Bill Russell's book, Red and Me. So it'll focus on the relationship that he had with Red Auerbach as his coach and the owner of the Boston Celtics. It's a very interesting dynamic. Being a like 6 foot plus black man with a 6 foot Jewish man from New York. Very different personalities, but the two of them were very, very good friends.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Wonderful update. Thank you. Next item on the agenda for the evening is the OESJ annual update.
I have a few PowerPoint slides for you guys. As Amy's pulling up the PowerPoint, I want to just give a big thank you to you guys, the trustees, for supporting this work. We're going on 3+ years, I think, of the office being here in the library. 2.5 years for me, a year for my predecessor. Is that math right, Amy? Closer? Yeah. We can round it up, round it down, right? And so I meet regularly with my colleagues across the state a couple times a month. And I'm the only one in the library, which I tell a lot of the great library stories, which I think are special. And I say this with all seriousness, though. It's really, this is a special library, not just because of, I think, the quality of work that comes out of here, but because I think that when you think about supporting this kind of work, which is work, I think really when I sit, and you'll see my update in a moment, around just it centers on everybody, it sometimes doesn't get projected that way. So I want to always be clear when I'm doing my updates to you that it's always going to be Reading first. We're always focused on data. You got a public health guy here, 22 years of public health. I'm always going to be focused on data, and particularly Reading data. So I'll jump into it. So you can go to the next slide. So there's a few things I just want to talk about, and I have 20 minutes today, so I'm going to try to speed talk a little bit. One is sharing with you our employee engagement work that we've been doing, something really near and dear to me. We call them, we birthed out some listening sessions we did with our colleagues across the town, and really kind of dovetailed into thing we call these lunch and learns, which ways for employees across all the different departments to get to know one another. We'll talk a little bit about our strategic plan that's been, again, really near dear to me. It really on the heels of some great data we collected back in 2023 from our workforce and our community around this work. And really for me, just because I'm a public health guy, I want to turn that right into a strategic plan, because I think if you don't have a plan, there's no way it can be operationalized. And then just some newer work for me since the last time I think I talked to you guys. I'm now the ADA coordinator for the town of Reading. That did not come with a pay increase. I just want to be clear about that. So it's a very tough. I did raise my hand though, and I loved it though, and I love this work. You guys got to have some humor. I'm gonna get you laughing. Who doesn't laugh in the room? I'm gonna get you laughing. And also we're excited about it, the Commission on Disability, which I also got birthed around the same time. And then just talk about some of the community events. Taylor showed one of them around Juneteenth, but sharing with you some of the work that we've been doing probably over the last 6 to 8 months around our community, right? So next slide. This is obviously a very texty slide, but I just want to share one thing. I know you guys have seen this before, but I just want to remind you about what our mission is. And again, I want to always try to clarify what we do, because sometimes it's put out there that, in the public domain, sometimes what we may be doing. I want you to be clear as the trustees what we are about. And our mission is really focused on it's a shared service, providing education, support, and resources aimed at making Reading inclusive, diverse, and accessible town for all. So I just want to remind you what you're supporting. This work is supporting all our residents, and I mean all. And really, we do it in a way that is about kind of collaborating, sharing with folks, our work. Again, text-heavy slide, and I guess you guys will get this at some point in your inbox, so you can kind of bedside reading for the other parts, okay? So just want to share with you the next slide, our approach. Again, really this approach focused on a few things. One, advising, as I said earlier, not enforcing. So we're not about enforcing, but we're encouraging awareness, which I think is a key to the work I do, about raising awareness around education, particularly around diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. That's the DEIA. Supporting other departments are really dear to me. This work, again, why I really love it in a municipality like Reading really allows us to work with all the different departments. And so we have a nice big playground we all can play in and really enjoy one another and get to know one another. And also just really that final piece around engaging our community, really. I think the special thing about this role is inward and outward facing, right? So I get to work with my colleagues across the town, but also I get to engage with the residents out there, which I really enjoy doing that over the last year or so. So really excited about that piece. Next slide. So again, I want to turn right into some of the things we've really been doing around these listening sessions. You can turn to the next slide after that. So back in 2023, collected a bunch of data from our workforce and our community around this work. And really, for me, what was missing in that is a strategic plan. And so, but also what was missing in that is really, I think, a way for us to truly fully understand, because people checked the box off, wrote some things into a survey, but what does that really mean? And really, I really wanted to dig a little deep into that. So we did something, which I did on the community side, was to collaborate with the Coalition Prevention and the Reading Public Schools on these listening sessions with students. I said, why can't we do that with the town, right? It'd be great. So I brought this great idea to Amy, which I want to say, Amy, I bring like a lot of ideas to Amy, and she listens to them all, shakes her head, and then I walk out of there maybe with one or two of them, which I'm happy about. Now, she really supports everything I do, but some things I just can't do it all, right? So this was these listening sessions that we really wanted to make sure we were trying to understand from our colleagues. We heard you say some things in the survey. Is that really what you said? And we'll dig a little bit deeper in that. So next slide. So the main objective of these listening sessions were to really create a sense of understanding, a sense of belonging from our town. And this was, again, for the town employees. And so, again, we collected this data back in 2023. What did it really mean? So we kind of focused on, again, this one central question: how can we create a sense of belonging among our 278 colleagues across the town? And so that's really what we began. Next slide. So we did really, and I didn't really think anyone would show up. So I want to be very clear, but we had a lot of folks show up. And we had a really diverse group of 98 of our colleagues showed up over 12 sessions, 2 with our department heads and 12 with the rank and file, the folks. And really, these were just a couple of pictures you can see here. Just really, and again, I was really big on taking the pictures because I really wanted to make sure, again, we reflected who was in these sessions, right? And I sent these out to every colleague, all our colleagues right after each session. Again, so these are just, again, I remember all these sessions because I was in all of them, and really great to be there. So we did this process of, you can touch the next slide, of hearing from our workforce, again, what it meant to be a sense of belonging. Our guiding questions, again, as you see them right here, is it, kind of what's been your experience in terms of belonging in town of Reading? What is getting in the way of you feeling connected? And then what could the town of Reading and Reading community do to cultivate a sense of belonging? Okay, so again, some of these questions we were asking on the school side, again, really thought it'd be a great way for us to do it on our department side, because all our departments, for the most part, have an interface with our community as well. So how can we get a sense of belonging? Next slide, please. This is the visual. Again, we were very intentional about sharing out with our colleagues about this journey, right? So we started the journey back in April 1st of last year, and we collected that, found the journey on June 12th, I'm sorry, our last session. So again, we wanted to let people know that we were on a journey, right? And we want to be all on this journey together. And we are now moving to phase 2. So this was phase 1. I'll share with you phase 2, which was really, again, you can go to the next slide. So again, we were very intentional about that. This team, again, very important. This was not about me. It's about really this team of folks. We call them the implementation team. That's a term that was carried over from the work that we was doing with our consultant. And this team of folks, which is really diverse team you see on there. So we have our community resource officer, we have our community service director, a public health nurse, we have our community development director, and we have our, what's Kat's role here at the library? Senior librarian, right. So that's our team. We're missing 2. We're missing our Sergeant Pat Silva, and we just have a new member who is our communications, our communications team on the town side, Josh. So that's our team. Again, just wanted, next slide. Tech savvy, but again, we wanted to make sure that, we heard, so they said a lot. I was in every session, staff said a lot of things to us. And some of the things that we really wanted to make sure, staff were telling us that they really wanted to, get a sense of being connected, right? But a lot of folks felt undervalued, really wanted to make sure they heard town leadership heard that they had a lot to offer and a sense of appreciation. So one of them, again, was a big bucket around appreciation support. Next slide. The next one was workplace culture. Staff wanted to really feel like they had an environment that that was supportive to them, and really, staff put out a lot. I think everyone was very clear that we are service employees. We are at the call of the residents, but a lot of folks feel like, and these were their terms, get beat up in the community, right? So we wanted to make sure that they recognized that, a lot of work was being put out, and we wanted to make sure when they were on the workforce side that they felt supported with that. So that culture of feeling support, and feeling like they that staff had their back, and really being able to hear them when they had their concerns. Yeah. So again, next slide. So again, these were three big buckets that we identified, and I'll share with you more about the last bucket, the more appreciation support, workplace culture. And the final one was interdepartmental connectivity. Again, it surprised me a lot. I was in every session that a lot of folks didn't even know one another, right? And then they knew each other, but they didn't know really what they did. So again, I just reminded me of the credible opportunity where you have people sitting meetings all the time and doesn't really know what does the person in community development really do, right? What does that resource officer, what is he or she really doing in the community? So these were just ways of just to connect, right? So we just said, it's important for us to kind of hear that, and what does that mean for us, right? And so again, people felt like they were in silos, even in a small department. I remember there was one session where there were 5 people in the session, and 3 of them didn't even know one another, right? And again, we just use as opportunities to have connections. But one of the biggest, and I'll share with these are just some suggestions that came from the Department of Connectivity, Lunch and Learns, opportunity to connect with the departments, newsletters internally, and ways that we can just do fun things together. And just by the way, these things were all shared with our town leadership, right? So, and we are moving. I felt, that team has felt always supported by our team, by our town leadership in terms of being able to move on some of these things. But I'll just share with that first bullet point under suggestions offered is that lunch and learns. And this was like a low hanging fruit. So we started these, and we put out a survey to all our workforce, asking them to rank all our departments that they want to hear more about. So the 4 that basically rose to the top were police, community development, community services, and public health. And so we did our first lunch and learn at the police department last month. We had, we had the cap of 30. We had about 30 who attended. And basically we learned about the police department, and they didn't make any assumptions because we knew everything. And they shared with us some of their nice little toys they had there. And so we have our next lunch and learn coming up. This is drum roll, Amy, you're hearing this for the first time too. On the 29th, community development's doing their session there's a new site in Reading called it's a community gathering space. Thank you, right. Exactly. So they're holding it there. And we're excited about that. Again, we just finalized a flyer today. It was going to go out in the workforce on Wednesday. You got to pretend you didn't hear this, Amy. You'll be surprised when you see everything. Just act surprised when you see the announcement. But again, we're excited about sharing that community development. And then on deck after that in May, it's going to be community services. And so basically, the lunch and learns are twofold. One is that we go and we eat, okay, like you do any lunch and learn. But also we're learning, so kind of threefold. One, you're learning about that department, not making assumptions about what they do. And the third thing is you're getting to know the person next to you, right? So that intentionality around connecting with someone. I connected with the building commissioner. I didn't even know he had started. And so we're able to have great conversation about our work, which overlaps with ADA. So excited about that. So more to come. Next slide, next one after that. So strategic plan. So this again was very important to me because without a plan, none of this stuff's going to happen. So back to that assessment again, back to 2023, really that set off really just important for me to have this strategic plan. So connected with the local resident here who had her own consultant business, and basically the process is called results-based accountability. And what that basically means is traditional strategic plans basically have you set a mark, say 3 or 5 years, and they're really great too. We have one in the library. We say in 3 years, we're gonna be doing these things, right? I thought this results-based accountability could be better for what we do because it's basically kind of turning the curve. Instead of us saying in 3 years we want to have this XYZ done, what we're saying with this work is that we want to say that we are making movement and progress, right? So where are we turning the curve? You'll see on the next slide some of the departments and what they chose as the equity priority areas, but where are we turning the curve at in some of this work? Because particularly the work I do is so predicated on so many other things, right? So something could get in the way, funding or anything like that. So it just kind of puts things in at a halt versus like, have we identified a new partner? Have we done A, B, and C? So that's really where this stuff is so important. So again, a lot of this, again, it's a little bit side reading, but really the key thing here too is that we landed on 6 departments. We reached out to all our departments. So 6 departments, and you can turn to the next slide, I think was, and this slide's a little, I apologize for it being small print, but if you look at the top of that, those were the different, thanks for making it a little bigger. Those were the different outcomes that came from that survey in terms of things that really will be important for us to address either on the community side or the workforce side. On the right side, left side, I'm sorry, you have those are departments that all raised their hand and said, we're going to identify an equity priority area. So if you look across there, you can just zoom right down to library because it's to us, right? We identified really looking at accessibility and programming in physical spaces, okay, which I think the library's done a great job of already moving on a lot of that work. So the way this kind of started with myself and my consultant would sit down with the department heads and as well as the other staff to have them brainstorm what would be an equity priority area. They identified these. And again, this is going to allow me on an ongoing basis to have touch points with every department, right? So going forward, that's kind of where we are. So look, for example, health, want to diversify their board. They want to be more intentional about cross-generational programming. DPW wanted accessibility of pavements. Fire department wanted to be more culturally competent, particularly with the mosque here in Reading, in terms of really engage them because they are first responders as well. Our planning department wanted to be more intentional about really not just centered on owners, but really think about how to engage our renters as well in the process, because a lot of times renters in communities like this, and I live in one, they don't oftentimes feel they can come to the table and really be a part of planning because, you know, for different reasons. So that's, and community services wants to really more intentional about inclusive programming, okay? Fast forward, next slide. Almost done. ADA. Again, this is a new piece that came on. So again, I won't read this text heavy, but I'll read 2 things about this. One, we're incredibly excited about having our Disabilities Commission formed. This is a group of 8 individuals who raised their hand and got elected, got appointed. 5 of them are voting members, 3 of them are alternates. And basically a lot of other towns like Reading has a commission on disability. Any folks know other commissions around, some of your friends in other towns? No? Okay. It's a way to, you know, obviously get residents involved in disability work. As we know, disability is one of those things where it impacts us in so many different ways, right? Physical as non-physical disabilities. And so really just being able to be intentional about having members across the town, the Reading, to be a part of this. We have our first meeting coming up on the 23rd. And yeah, it's exciting time. So more to come around that. Again, I serve in this role as the staff liaison to this particular board. Yeah, so we move on for that. A couple more slides. You can go to the next slide. And then finally, our last couple of slides about our community work. Again, excited. Partners and Allies for an Inclusive Reading PAIR was a project that was birthed before I got here. I remember Amy asking me probably day 2 when I started, did I want to still hold on to PAIR? You know, because again, when things aren't birthed under you, how do you, do you want to keep them going? And I kind of sat on there for a while and I realized, you know what, I really love the idea of having an initiative that touches both the community and the workforce together. Think about an inclusive Reading, right? So we kept it going, but we've been working for the last 6-8 months on doing some I was say renovating, right? That's not a word I want to use, right? We're doing some just looking at revisiting some things about it. So we're going to relaunch that in June. But again, it centers on really bringing our stakeholders together on the community and the workforce side to think about how can we be intentional about those residents that may be missing and that may be on the margin. So more to come around that relaunch in June. Final slide is really, again, with this work, again, a lot of times people don't know about the behind the scenes work, right? Because you wouldn't know unless you're on a board like this. So this is kind of the public side of our work, right? So this is what people, when they say, oh, I would love to be a part of the work you're doing, they're thinking about this, right? Which is totally fine. And this is not performative. This is really intentional work. So, we've done a few different events, but these are probably the 4 or 5 that we're going to land on consistently throughout the time. And I'll share one last thing about this when I finish this, going through this. So again, the MLK event, it's pretty much a town-wide event. We engaged 200 plus people. It's at the high school. Really thoughtful about collaboration with that event. Taylor mentioned earlier, really engaging a lot of different vendors to be a part of that event, to share their work. Black History Trivia, we're in the 2nd year of that, really intentional around that month, really collaborating with groups like Cato and others. We did for the first time this year something I've really been thinking about for a couple of years, Women's in Leadership panel. So in this room right here, we had 6 incredible leaders, women leaders who are doing some amazing work. So we brought them together, and we did collaborative event with the Women's League of Reading around that. And then finally, coming up in June is our 4th annual Juneteenth event, which we hold right in the Common. I would say that, we're really being thoughtful, intentional, particularly in this day and time, about trying to get additional funding for these events. These events, and I'll say this, obviously you hold the purse strings with the work, they don't cost us a ton to run them, right? Try to keep it really low cost. But there are smaller grants out there to support this work. So really being thoughtful, intentional. Amy and I have been talking about this a lot around just trying to get some grant funding to cover some of these events. So just letting you know that we're really being thoughtful, intentional about that. So last slide is a thank you, and I have like a million questions that you guys. I'm sorry. Well, I'm passing it to our chair, but just doing your job. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
Great work, very thorough. The women's leadership, I heard excellent things about, by the way. My wife came home and said everything was about it. She loved how it started with the poet. And then from there on, she thought it was very engaging. That expansion with potentially pair, I'm wondering if that's what you're seeing part of the strategic plan, where you've spent so much time in the community with the town workers and getting that dialogue. And obviously the idea is you create that system and it keeps going, and organically, you get that feedback, and then looking to expand that a little bit more to the community.
Exactly.
I mean, we do have a town where I think a great deal of the town workers are not living in the town.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, but is that part of the goal to kind of,
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's we applied for a grant through the MAPC, Massachusetts Area Planning Council. We'll know in June, cross your fingers. It's a technical assistance grant, so it's allow us to actually to expand PAIR. So the work that I'm doing kind of behind the scenes a little bit, hopefully we'll get some funding through this technical assistance grant to do that. But again, I think that PAIR is a secret sauce. I think if we did that right, and I think we will get it right, I think it is going to allow us to really bring together all those stakeholders. And everyone, I think, really is doing great work. I just think put them in the same space to really be able to have some difficult conversations, but really need it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks again for your support. Any questions you have, I know you guys can reach me.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert.
I know. I was going to say the same thing. Sorry for the feedback. Next item on the agenda, a review of the history room use policy. Is it feedback from me?
Thank you for that, and hopefully the feedback's done. So the local history room use policy is something we implemented just a few years ago, since we now have a history room, and that was just history for those who don't know. Back in 2019, we did we had a grant to assess cultural resources here in the town for preservation purposes. So we had someone from the NEDCC come out and evaluate Parker Tavern, the town clerk's resources, and then our resources. And then they developed a report for each of those groups to help with preservation. So one of the recommendations at that point was to have the room locked instead of just being open, and have some guidelines as to who and how people can use the room. So this is a fairly new policy. It was established in 2021. And if you look at your packets, it looks like a lot of red, and there is a lot of red, meaning changes. They're not wholly substantive changes. They're mostly clarifying changes and some editorial changes, small things like taking out the passive voice, etc., rearranging the order so that it looks a little bit different. And if you look at the final product and the edited product, we did shorten it quite a bit and try to make it more succinct. This is the time when you can look this over. We'll revisit this on May 11th and probably vote on it, but I'm happy to take any questions about.
One question about
Yes.
or did you actually add this non-circulating? I couldn't tell if that was removed. Oh, it's added. Sorry, I thought that was removed.
No, it does, yeah. So we had a discussion on, I'll just prep you, that we really debated about putting more information about policy, about the collection in this document. But we have decided instead to flesh out our collection development policy and have a really specific section in the collection development policy about what goes in and what gets deaccessioned from the local history collection. We do have a lot of very avid historians, amateur historians in town who love to give us big boxes of things that they found in their attic. And so we have to say no sometimes. And so having some guidelines as to what we actually collect, we have a very limited space. It's that one room. We don't have a lot of extra space. So that will be coming up on our next collection development revision. So this is really only about how you get into the room, what you can do once you're in the room, and then a little bit about copywriting and copyright law and that sort of stuff. Some of it is very basic. No food or drink or chewing gum, that kind of thing. So that mostly hasn't changed. It's really just been try and streamline it. I'm happy to take any questions now. You can send me an email with questions and I can address it at the next meeting, and we can just add it to the next meeting for further discussion and a vote.
Amy, a couple things.
Yep.
So when I first started reading it, it gave me the impression that if the history room is open for you, that someone's sitting with you while you're in there.
Okay.
And I don't know why I got that impression.
Yep.
So I don't know if we make that clear that that is or is not the case. So when I got to the part that says patrons who engage in behavior that could cause damage to materials may be denied access.
Yep.
I was like, well, how's that going to happen if somebody's sitting right next to them? So I just was
Yeah.
confused about that.
I'll reread. I'll have someone reread through it with that lens on it.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
no liquid
And
in
then
there.
The other one is under the section with all materials in the history. Well, what it used to say is all materials in the history must be handled with care. Now that's being condensed and it's got all the bullets under it.
Yeah.
So bullet 5, I just think it needs to be reworded. It says items from secure storage, a minimum of 45 minutes. We're
Oh.
missing like a verb,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It says request item. It should say request.
but it's crossed out.
Yeah.
The red line is.
Yeah. So if you look at the bottom, it does say request items from secure
Oh.
storage,
so
a
it's-
minimum of 45 minutes.
Oh.
But there's definitely typos in here, so
Here.
we'll go through that.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I was losing.
No worries, no worries. But
Yeah.
I think that we do want to be clear that this is about independent research, and we're basically giving you the keys to the kingdom to sit in this room unsupervised.
Yeah. And one other question I had is, so it talks about all users must present a Noble Library card or a valid state or federal photo ID at the desk to make an appointment and sign in. Couldn't the process be someone calls ahead and says, I want to access the history room for this. Can I make an appointment?
Appointment.
Then you have to show
Sign
up,
in. Okay.
show your ID.
Yep.
Like, I'm really who I say I am. Here's my ID. I made this appointment. Because I'm just thinking, I don't think that many people are going to stumble in here to go to the history room. They're going to be wanting to go for a purpose, and so they
Yes.
probably
And they
would
might be
call
an
ahead.
out-of-towner too. They might
Yeah.
They might be an out of
Yeah,
towner.
need to plan
right.
ahead.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what the practical process is actually. And I'm sure what happens is someone emails or calls and then a librarian says, oh yeah, sure, Jocelyn will see you at 2 o'clock. Just don't forget to bring an ID.
Right.
And so I think that that's a great clarification. We'll make sure that gets in there.
Okay, thanks.
Out of curiosity, like, who's the average user of the history room? I've always wondered who, like,
Yeah, it's really interesting. And we do have both folks from in town as well as out of town, local genealogists and historians. Jocelyn's been very busy. She just had a group of archive students from Simmons come in and she taught a class for them. She also worked for the AP history class and they did this whole women's tour. I'll send you all the link, but they did a session on primary resources and using primary resources in the local history room. So, it's actually a wide range of very targeted, and then those who are just coming to, the people that come to look at the history of their house can be anywhere from the new younger house owner to someone who's just like, I've lived in this house for 75 years. Is my house on the inventory?
Okay.
So we get a really wide range. So I don't know if I could pick out. I think it's a really nice mix, actually. I mean, short of young children, which is part of the reason we have this, because the teens used to go in there in the afternoon when it was unlocked and they would just play games on not to blame the teens, but that's partly why we have it locked now, so that it's used by researchers only.
I feel like I was allowed to work in there a couple of years ago.
Yes, yeah, you can just come and work in there, but we do ask that, that you show some responsibility there. And a lot of people get turned off because you can't eat or drink in there, because everywhere else in the library you can eat or drink. So there are some people that, no, I really want my coffee. I'm going to go sit in the silent study area. But absolutely, it can be just used to work.
I don't know if you'd stop allowing such a thing.
excellent. Thank you. Any questions other than ones that have been raised? Wonderful. If not, we can move on to Amy's famous financial director report.
Okay, so because we had extra reports today, we're not going to, obviously we didn't get done by 7:30, but I'll try to make this quick so we can get out before 8. We had our FinCom budget presentation on March 4th. Everything went very smoothly. We actually killed it in one night, which was great. We went a little late, but we got it all done in one night, which was fantastic. And the budget, which does rely on, I think, about $6.7 million from free cash, so it's not a small amount, was approved by the FinCom. Now we just have to go to town meeting. It begins on April 7th and 27th, and I believe the budget is usually the second night, which is that Thursday, which is probably April 30th. So all the department heads and whatnot will be there to talk about the FY27 budget. It's not town meetings call or our call, it's the select board call, but there will probably be either budget cuts or a request for an override for FY28. Just so you know, we're already starting that process. We already have salary. It's not even fiscal year 27, and we're already working with fiscal year 28 staffing projections and expense projections. So we're all over that and coming up with several different budget models for different scenarios. So it's a long process, but we're getting started early. We had some great gifts in March. We had a bunch of donors in memory of Adelard Everton, who is a long time resident of Reading. And Adelard and his Dr. Everton and his wife, Princess, moved up to Peabody. I think it's in one of the assisted living communities up there. I can't remember what it's called. Brooksby. Yeah, Brooksby. I think it might be. Anyway, so Dr. Everton had passed away, so we got some very nice donations. Also, I don't know if you remember I think it was like 2024, we had a bequest from an estate, and it always takes a little while. We got the first distribution, and this is the final distribution, which is after all the lawyers' fees, et cetera. So we had a little input from that. So we had some nice gifts in March. Um, Everything else of FY26 budget is on target. As you know, I've keep reporting, we're a little under budget on staff, mostly due to our transitions. We are, knock on wood, fully staffed. So we're very excited to have a full staffing. We will be looking for some more substitutes for Saturdays and Sundays. We hire some of our substitutes to become regular employees, so now they can't substitute. But that's more of a later summer, late spring and early summer task. Any other questions about the financial picture? Thank you if you have signed the warrant, and if you haven't, please sign it before you go. Oh, I just want to give a shout out to accounting, who has had to deal with me since February. And I mean, I remember doing all of this during COVID, although we didn't have any cash drops and whatnot, but dealing with the warrants and Michelle's doing the payroll. So Michelle's, who couldn't join us tonight, we're doing a great, both working really, really hard. And our accounting department is amazing, and they actually are short staffed. They just had a staffing transition, and I get these very lovely emails saying, the next time you submit a warrant, it would be really nice if you did X, Y, and Z. So I'm hoping someday to have a perfect warrant. Maybe it'll be this time. But the accounting department has been so supportive, and not having an admin. Our budget is very small for expenses, but we have probably more invoices. I mean, not including the schools, than any other town department, because we get so many, they're for small amounts, but they all have to be processed individually. So they're just an amazing support during this time with Megan out. Okay, director's report. Statistics looks really good. We had
Sorry to interrupt, were the lockers down last March, or are we just up that much more? It looks like we're using lockers. Why not?
Locker use. Yes. No, they're just being used a lot more. February was actually a killer month in considering how short it was, but I think it was because there was a lot of snow. People didn't know when they could get to the library. The locker use is significantly up, and we're finding that, over 50% of them are used at any given time, which is fantastic. It's, there's still things we wish that were better about it, but at this point, it's turning out to be something that people really appreciate. They can come anytime, 24/7, scan their card, the thing pops open, they take their things, and boom, it's gone. So we had 16,556 visitors in March, which again, I think that's because the weather wasn't that great, so we had a lot more people visiting. And we also had some really great programs as well. We went back up to having 79 programs. I'd finally gotten them down to about 60, but very, very ambitious, our program planners. So that's been great. Services, programs, and collections. Albert already mentioned some of his great programs that he had. We're dealing with Mahjong. As you know, Mahjong is very, very, very popular. And in addition to having a class every once in a while, we have a lot of people that want to come and do a Mahjong meetup. So we're trying to accommodate that as best as we can, and helping people meet each other that have like interest in Mahjong. Very excited to have the Mandarin introduction to Mandarin for adults, which was great. And it was a young, everything ranged from, I think there was a teenager, a young person in there, all the way up to 60 plus. And we had a retired teacher who was also a Reading resident who came in to teach those classes for free. And I think we definitely want to ask them back. I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And on the flip side of that is we also have our first, in the middle of our first session for learning English. So it's really great. Yeah, the amount of multilingual programming that we're doing is really, I put that down to some of our new hires. Ashley Cristiano, who was a substitute and now a full-time librarian, has taken a lot of that on. Let's see here. Oh, and the library card contest has kicked off that Michelle presented to you last time. We're very excited. We've gotten a lot of inquiries about it. We hope to have our September card selected by you all in May.
I had, excuse me, 2 adult children home this past weekend for the weekend. I was in the car at separate times with each of them going through the town center, and they're like, "Mom, did you submit your entry for that?"
Library card.
4 children.
Well, we could
They're like
offer
your
one.
age.
We could see about offering it a different age next year. We'll see how it goes. So, standouts, I do the anniversaries. I try to do them in order of the number of years people have been here. I don't know if you guys know Lisa Eng. She's one of our she's our adult page library technician. She's been with us for 22 years, which is absolutely amazing. And some of our newest folks have been here for 3 years. So we had a lot of anniversaries in April. We must have a lot of people leaving in December and January so that we're hiring a lot of people for April. One thing I didn't put on here actually is that, was it in March? It might have been April. But Luna Javertson, I'm not gonna say it correctly. It also has, it's DZIEWIETIN. Luna has started as our newest borrower services library associate and has worked out really well. And it's been great. So it's really nice to be fully staffed. I had one other thing to add to the director's report, which did not make it into my director's report, which I submitted on Thursday. Because I had already submitted it. Thursday evening at 4:50, I got a phone call from one of the desks saying, bagpipes. And I said, what? They said, people are playing bagpipes in the library.
In the library.
So down on the main floor, I think it's like a TikTok thing, bagpipes in libraries. And so it's sort of just like a prank. So there were 4 talented bagpipers in kilts, in black shirts and kilts, multiracial. They all look like young men, about maybe 20 something, maybe. They brought an amp with them and they were playing. And, you know, we politely asked them to leave. I did, and they kind of ignored that. The first thing that happened is everyone called Cheyenne and said, did some group book the room for like bagpipe playing? And she's like, I know nothing about this. So poor Cheyenne had to deal with that. But it was, you know, they're First Amendment auditors. There's people who come in challenges. There's a lot of people who could come in and refuse to leave. So as challenges, as issues go, it was actually quite a fun one to have. But we did end up calling public safety because they kept ignoring the request to leave. And then they did eventually. And I think they went right over to Woburn, either that same day or another day. So I think they've been to another local library. And then I had
They
to
have
go.
somebody like filming them?
Yes, they did have
Oh, they
somebody
did.
they did have somebody filming them. And I think they kind of left because we were not very interesting. We were like, well done, nicely played. Could you please go outside? So it was, I just wanted to tell you, first of all, if we make it into the police blotter, that's why. They did send an officer over here who I explained everything to, and we had a good chuckle about it. So, but it's actually kind of a fun thing to have to report to you that we were selected to be ranked by a bunch of young bagpipers. And that's all I have for my director's report, really.
Well, that's a cap.
I know. I was saving that one up.
I would like to add congratulations to Manette for another 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have to
So,
self-congratulate.
yeah, both of you.
Congrats to you,
Congrats.
Cap.
And I assume, I'm sorry, I didn't check. I'm assuming you both got sworn in today.
We did.
Yay. Thank you.
Felt bad because Laura said she was going to come here and swear us in if she didn't certify in time. Made sure I got it. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Amy. And I'm still feeding back, so I'll be back here. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the February 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. Do we have any questions, changes, updates?
Thank you to Cheyenne. That was her first set of minutes, and I think they came out great.
Nicely done. I move that we accept the meeting minutes for March 9th, 26 as recorded.
Yes, and I actually accidentally wrote February 9th in
Oh.
the agenda, but it should be March 9th. Thank
The
you.
minutes themselves say March 9th.
Yes, that is correct, that the agenda is incorrect. You are correct.
All in favor? Oh, we're all here. Motion carries 6-0. Next item are future agenda items. Which include, we'll have to, in May, the discussion and vote for the history room use policy, which we discussed. And Amy, would you like to cover the others, or would you like me to just go over them?
I'll just go over them really quickly. June is always the big meeting. You'll get a summer programming update. We we do a reorganization of officers as needed or required. And that's something that the chair manages that process. And we set the FY27 trustee meeting dates. We also vote on the calendar year 27 holiday schedule. There are the 12, I think, that are offered by the town, but then we add some additional closings. So it's not just holidays, it's library closings and et cetera. And then there are 2 policies that I haven't gotten any feedback yet that we might possibly discuss in July. I don't think there'll be any changes to those. And then we usually just do an update in July on the print, copy, scan, fax, just to let you know how those are proceeding. And that's it. So hopefully it'll be a quiet summer.
That sounds good. Any other questions? We get a motion.
Second that motion?
All in favor? And the motion carries 6-0. Adjourning.
Recording stopped.